It's great to see everyone. We're here because we care about open source. We think that open source is a growing and incredibly important part of the world. And as we know, open source is borderless. The ways that we contribute increasingly are based on domain, interest, network, and not based on locality, geography, where you're from. And so this is the flywheel that you're trying to create. You have the network funding a share, taking a share of its revenue into a foundation, and then using that to provide funding to projects that ideally bring value back onto the network and don't need to have a fee because they're able to rely increasingly on this form of funding to cover their operations and to grow. So this is the promise. Right now, as in many things in crypto, it might seem that this is a beautiful idea, but it doesn't exist in practice. The reality, though, is that this is actually happening, and on a scale that even I was surprised yesterday when I checked the numbers. There's a site called Grow the Pie where you can actually look and see on a daily basis how much profit some of these networks are spinning off. But in any case, these are teams that are organized independent of the network itself, and they have a decision about how much time they want to focus on Optimism, Arbitrum, or any other network. And then, of course, we can look at the developers. This actually represents the unique developers, so some might be working on more than one project, but each of these networks has roughly 1,000 or so active developers that are contributing on a regular basis. So again, point here, this is a beautiful concept, but there's actually real money that is coming into these networks, and they want to use that towards funding the projects that are having the most impact. But you can see that the amount of funding that is going in to funding these projects has been increasing pretty rapidly. And already in 2024, we're likely on pace to exceed what was deployed in 2023. And then this crazy Sankey diagram over here basically shows that there's a lot of projects. And in many cases, there are more than one funder funding the same project. It could be Arbitrum and Optimism both funding the same project. It could be things like Gitcoin and Octant, which are also contributing to these public goods and these projects. We think this is a pretty powerful opportunity to combine these data sets. And in the same way that in financial markets, better visibility has led to all sorts of changes in how funding is allocated, we believe the same thing is possible for open source funding. And so by layering and combining these data sets, indexing them so that they're more accessible, we believe that we can dramatically improve the funding outcomes and the impact that we can see on these networks. There definitely are some challenges here. Superficial metrics like the number of stars, contributors, daily active users, et cetera, are probably pretty good at identifying both the things on the extreme end of the short tail and the long tail. But the really hard work is here in the middle and finding meaningful metrics to identify the projects which are going to become the big ones of the future, or the ones that are a keystone species in their ecosystem. What kind of signals can we use to identify those projects and come up with good predictive metrics and ideally use that to inform the funding decisions that we make? That's like a really hard problem. As George Box famously said, all models are wrong, some are useful. There's a lot of work that is gonna be required to search across the space and try out different models. And hopefully, through governance and through being able to design a number of experiments, we can find some models that are useful in governing and improving the efficacy of these grants programs. So the last part of my presentation is some of the work that lies ahead, the jobs that we need. Right now, we have people that are very excited about public goods, about free and open source software. And over here, we have data people, and there's very little overlap. There's very, very few people in the intersection of those two populations. And so our goal, one of the things that we care and are passionate about, is trying to build this network of impact data scientists. So people that care about impact, but that also want to develop the data skills and apply that to the question of how do we fund more of the things that matter in our community. So we need a network of impact data scientists. It's a job that doesn't exist. Some of the things that we think are important, being able to be curious and explore different sources of data and finding ways to stack and connect that data. Being rigorous and thoughtful about impact measurement. And then finally, we believe that the mission and the ideals are really important here. And so we do want to attract people that care first and foremost about having an impact, and this being work that is going to change the way that we fund things and ultimately change the world. Thank you very much. This is my contact information. We'd love to hear from you. And please, if you're interested, join us in the Discord and help create the future of impact data science. Thanks.